Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to Guiding Voice podcast series. The Guiding Voice for a better future. This podcast is to help students and young professionals to shape their careers. Thank you for tuning in. This is Naveen and I'm with my co-host Sudhakar. Dear listeners, in this special episode, we want to cover the most coveted topic in the student community. That is none other than on-campus and off-campus hiring. It gives us immense pleasure to invite Shikha to join us in this conversation. Shikha is a special guest in a way that she has come forward passionately to be part of this journey, and we are extremely delighted about this. And looking forward to many more special guests who can join our mission like Shikha. This is very inspiring. Absolutely glad to have you with us today, Shikha.
Thank you very much, Naveen, for a generous introduction. I'm also very glad to be a part of these series, and let's see how together we can help the student.
Thank you, Shikha. Shikha Gupta is a well-seasoned HR professional with 17 years of rich and diverse work experience in HR domain. In addition to her key forte of talent acquisition, including campus, lateral and leadership level hiring, Shikha has vast experience in other HR domains like HR generalist, learning and development, organizational development, employee engagement, along with HR business partner functions. Shikha has been instrumental in developing, leading and streamlining the HR and recruitment functions with her proven ability to enhance operational effectiveness and meet organizational level goals within the cost, time and quality parameters.
Shikha is currently working as Head Talent Acquisition at Winwire Technologies, Bengaluru. She is primarily responsible for attracting talent across levels and geographies within India and the United States. Prior to Winwire, Shikha has been a part of both product and IT services organizations like Wipro, OnMobile Global, Tally India, Oracle and NIIT, where she has been strategically involved in their growth and has worked across different HR functions.
Shikha holds a master's degree in human resource management. For a large part of her career, she has been actively involved in campus hiring, both technical and non-technical, across premium B schools and colleges. Shikha has also been engaged in providing corporate training on soft skills, personality development, and French language. And we are pleased to welcome Shikha to our show today. Shikha, many companies have released offers to students as part of their campus hiring. In the current situation, what do you think will be their future?
First of all, Sudhakar, thank you for such a nice and warm welcome and a nice introduction. Feels really good to be a part of this show. As far as the future of students is concerned, we all of us know that due to COVID-19 pandemic, many companies have delayed the onboarding of these campus hires, right? Rather than onboarding the young minds, making them do odd jobs and unskilled jobs because there is lack of projects due to a certain business impact, or putting them on bench. It actually, according to me, makes sense to delay the onboarding process because these are high aspiring young minds, right? We cannot get them to do, whatever odd jobs that are available in any organization. This millennial generation, so that we call them, are very ambitious. It is equally important to handle them very carefully, right, by giving them meaningful and challenging assignments, roles that would be available in any organization once the business scenario improves. According to me, these individuals should utilize all the campus hires this particular time to skill themselves, upskill, cross-skill, be ready for futures. That would make them land up in a short, good job market.
Thank you, Shikha. In general, how does this on-campus recruitment happen, Shikha? Meaning, how is it different from off-campus drive?
Sudhakar, there is a stark difference between on-campus and off-campus. I'll briefly explain. In on-campus, what I feel is it's a very close handshake between a campus and a corporate, right, which happens at the institute. The organization typically approaches the placement cell of any educational institute to initiate the hiring process. Then each organization is given a day slot, right? It could be a day 0, day 1, day minus, where they conduct the campus recruitment. Whereas there are multiple other organizations who are also in that particular campus doing recruitment. So I'm competing with some of the best players at the campus doing recruitment on the same day. And that is why the competition is very fierce. And each of these students, right, is allowed to sit for more than one interviews, which means if you're offering somebody, you're not sure if he's going to take up the offer. In general, the entire campus recruitment process goes as a day activity, early morning till probably late evening, which involves aptitude test, which is a good mix of analytical and logical reasoning, group discussions, personal interviews, HR, and finally an offer at the end of the day. That is how the on-campus recruitment happens. Mm-hmm. With off-campus, in my view, it's more to do with one-on-one collaboration between the education institute and the corporate. It could be either hosted at the institute, right, or it could be hosted at the corporate, at the company's premises. The interview process is also slightly different because the filtering criteria changes as we are now looking at limited talent availability compared to, where we were looking at a large pool in campus. But then this process also is a combination of certain tests, interviews, HR and offer. That is how I would describe the difference between the two.
All right, I think that's a great summary, Shikha, when it comes to off-campus and how it is different from on-campus interview. Mm-hmm. So normally, what do you look for in those drives and how should students prepare themselves for the interviews?
If you ask me, Naveen, I would want, an Einstein or a Thomas Alva Edison to join my company, right? Unfortunately, that's not possible. Those times are gone. So it's a good mix of, what you get versus what you aspire. Typically, on the first step is the transitioning that an individual does from a student life to a professional life. That has to be taken very seriously, right? And in terms of the preparation, I will highlight 3-4 main areas. According to me, I think the first one is the aptitude test, where these students are tested for communication skills, English vocabulary, logical reasoning, quantitative abilities, domain and subject knowledge. For somebody to crack an aptitude test, my advice would be they should attempt several sample tests which are available on the internet and improve on their logical reasoning. So if they practice, they get a flavor of what the test looks like. Mm-hmm. And then whatever score I think the student is getting after the practice test has to be taken up seriously to improve himself. So when work on those weak areas, and then next time when he does the test, he can ace the test. That should be the objective. Second parameter in my mind is group discussion. Mm-hmm. That's one of the more important aspects of campus hiring process. Now, students, whether techies or non-techies, Naveen, have to work on communication skills. Mm-hmm. We keep hearing this from various leaders across the industry that communication is a big gap. I could be having the best coder or best QA person sitting in front of me, but if he's not able to articulate as to what he can produce in terms of work, then he's not good for me.
Yep.
So communication skills, awareness skills, general awareness, a little bit of GK. And how do you do that? Talk to your peers, friends, seniors, practice with them, right? Talk English, walk English, sleep English, eat English, right? That's how I sum it since I was a child. And the best way to do this is wherever you go, whichever set of audience you are with, just practice. And the objective would be to get out of that inhibition, right? Because most of us converse in our mother tongue, right? Whichever language is close to our heart, because we've been speaking since childhood. So English is always a second language for each one of us. Yeah. And so that is important. And towards the end of the group discussion, the person needs to summarize as to what his main points were and what is the possible solution that he's suggesting against the topic that has been proposed. Third thing, guys, I think it should be how they should prepare for a panel or a technical interview. They should do a good research on the company, right? Not just some internet reading. What areas, what domain, what the company operates in, right? This would really help them answer some of these relevant questions. They can also refer to online discussion forums like Quora and learn about the interview experience from their seniors. In today's time, there is a lot of information available on the internet. Maybe it was 15, 20 years back. So this gives them confidence, immense confidence to face an interview. Also attempt various coding tests, practice tests, according to me. These are available as freeware on the internet, programming challenges, to polish their basic skills. I think also by doing this practice, it prepares them how to face mock interviews with their seniors. Last but not the least, the most important, which is my area, HR interview. What do I look for? Yeah, the person has cleared aptitude, he's cleared a tech interview, he's cleared the group discussion. So Shikha, now it is the time to hire, right? So here is what I would probably look for in a candidate. It is very important if he does some research about the role that has been advertised in his campus, about the product, competition, market of the company for which he is interviewing. This will give me enough confidence to say, yes, this person is genuinely interested in my brand because he's done all his homework. And the student also has to be prepared to answer some very common HR questions, right? Self, health, family, career. Are you flexible to travel? Are you flexible to work late hours? What are your strengths and weaknesses? That, gives me insights about the personality of a candidate. Future plans. I think that's a very important question. It's just not a question, but a very important one, because a lot of these students, Naveen, today have plans of doing higher studies, right? Going abroad or probably starting up as an entrepreneur. So all this effort that I am putting as an HR person to hire this candidate, also the truth surfaces out. And a day before the interview, if you ask me, personal grooming, Naveen, talks a lot, right? How well are you groomed? What is your sense of hygiene? Is your interview uniform or interview attire ironed properly? Do you look professional? And in terms of documentation, are your papers ready in the file? Is everything in order? So let's say any of the panels asks for any information, it's ready to be handed over to that, right? And last but not the least, if you have made some quick notes in your mind, do a quick recap as to how I am going to attend this campus interview process and what I need to do as a candidate. I think these are very important factors.
Absolutely great tips, Shikha. It reminded one of my old days when I was part of a General Electric company. Me and our friends used to keep a rule saying that you shouldn't be talking in the first language or the second language, only English. So that helped us in terms of enhancing our language skills. And when you spoke about this HR interview, all the tips, I wish I had learned those tips before.
Naveen, even I wish I had learned those tips before.
Interesting, Shikha. So I'm sure our listeners would immensely benefit out of it. Yeah.
Correct.
But the advantage, Shikha, is now the current generation is much more smarter than our generation, I would say. They are really blessed to have knowledge and information at their fingertips.
So Shikha, one thing when you mentioned about these formal attires and all, So it brought a different question on my mind. Some of the product-based companies and the new companies are encouraging people to come in shorts or informals, right? So how do we deal about it? How does a student know whether to be in a formal or informal?
See, it's like this. Interview is your best shot that you can give to any organization, right? Once you get hired, you can choose to, depending on the company culture. So for example, I have been an ex, right? Could actually come in Bermudas and Capris if you wanted. It was so cool. But I wouldn't want to go in a Bermuda for an interview, right? So interview is my best shot that I can give to the company. Who is potentially willing to hire me based on my skill sets and everything. After joining the company, I think it is very important for me to imbibe with the culture. Like a lot of these organizations, right, have very young culture, right? So dress code boundaries are not there anymore. But at least an interview is a formal discussion, right? So for that particular discussion, I was suggesting that it has to be a formal attire. That too at campus.
Naveen, I learned it somewhere that when you are in doubt, always dress up.
What I also think of is probably it is better to overdress rather than underdress, right? So
I think that is what it meant. Like when you are in doubt, always dress up. It will never hurt you.
Subhakar, you reminded me of something which I read somewhere. I don't remember the exact words, but I'm going to paraphrase it for both of you. It actually said if you dress well, your confidence goes higher, right? Your morale goes much higher because you are that much prepared for any occasion. You could be attending a wedding, for example, or you could be attending an interview. The way you dress up is not only your clothes, it's also your mental makeup, right?
So true.
yeah, great conversation so far, guys. I'm loving this. So shifting gears slightly and talking about what are the key questions the candidate should ask the interviewer during the interviews.
You know, Naveen, this is a brilliant question, and I will tell you from all my experience. There are so many students who are so hesitant to ask. As if, it's a crime to say something. Come on. As much as, as much as I want the candidate to join, the candidate should also be clear as to what are, say, for example, expectations from this role, right? It will help him understand what are the key deliverables, KRAs associated with it, and maybe before he lands up into this job, which probably he will get offered towards the end of the day, he can prepare accordingly. There is a 2 month gap, right, in between. So what are the expectations from the role is a very key question according to me. Second would be asking who would I be working with, right? It's a good idea to ask about the team size, maybe ask about the project, ask about the reporting structure, right? A little on the team dynamics, which gives you a fair idea of what you're getting into, right? It will give the interviewer, for example, if I'm talking to this candidate, a sense of, whether the candidate is a team player, a team collaborator, what kind of dynamics will come into play. Third, I think they should definitely ask about what are the opportunities for learning, growth, professional development, because learning is a lifelong process. It's a journey. It's not an end, right? So the candidate, the student, it's very important for him to know what opportunities are there. It's a continuous process, and he should show the willingness that he would want to learn, upskill, cross-skill, learn different technologies and stuff like that, which means the company is also getting to understand that this is a fungible talent that I'm hiring, right? I can use him across various projects or assignments. Last but not the least, where do you see the company 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line? What is the vision, right? And this is a very critical one, according to me, because it shows that this person, this candidate, the student is looking for some stability and growth, and that is why he is interested in asking the 5-year plan, right? It would definitely give a confidence to the interviewer that the student is ready to invest the first few formative years of his career with the organization. which is very important. And if we look at, some sort of a ratio, right? It's just to say that if the first 6 months goes well, right, for any fresher, he or she tends to stick along for a good 2, 3, 4 years.
Okay.
So it's an important thing to ask as to what your company plans are, what are the growth plans like, so that he can see where he fits in the overall picture. So those would be the 4 key points, if you ask me.
Shikha, thank you for those wonderful tips for the candidates to ask during the interview process. Now, let me flip the question. I know you already touched upon some of these. From the student standpoint, what are the important interview questions that they should be prepared for and how to answer them?
Fantastic. Now, one of the best questions, all-time favorite question of every campus interview is, tell us something about yourself. See how some of these students answer, I have a father, I have a mother, I have 2 brothers, and blah, blah, blah. I don't think so that is how this has to be answered. Tell us something about yourself. Guys, everybody has one mother and one father. Yeah, they don't realize what they're saying. The way I would advise any campus student is just to break this into 3 key sections. 1, give your family background. 2nd, talk about your education history. And 3rd, talk about your likes, hobbies, and passion. Those are the 3 main components of tell us something about yourself. Rather than saying I have this and I have that, which doesn't give a very good sense to the interviewer. Second thing would be, every campus interview, the student will get asked as to what are your strengths and weaknesses. Again, this has to be, according to me, very objective. You cannot say my strength is, say for example, playing the guitar. That could be a strength, but here you're sitting for an interview. So think of along those professional lines, what could be your strength? Say time management could be, decision making could be, some leadership qualities could be your strength. Just an important point, no, there are a lot of these campus guys who will not say they have a weakness. Now we are not born perfect, right? All of us have weaknesses. So it is important to call out something that you think as an improvement area. The student should not think that, I really have to call out a weakness, but an improvement area. Say if you ask me, even today, I'm trying to improve on my time management because there is so much to do, and I'm sure you agree with me. There's so much to do in 24 hours. You're always juggling between different assignments and priorities and all that. Third thing, I think it's a good idea to share what your ambition is in life. Yeah? Tell the interviewer how seriously you're taking your career, what are your plans, where do you see yourself, say, 5 years down the line, right? That would give the interviewer a clear sense, that the student is serious about what he's pursuing. Another question that comes to my mind would be, if, every interviewer will ask them if they have plan of further studies. Because I would want to hire, any organization would want to hire a candidate for a certain period, right? At least say 2 years. He wouldn't want to see attrition in the first 6 months to 1 year. So I think it's very important for the student to be clear as to what his higher study plans are. Can you work under pressure? Very favorite question of all the interviewers, right? And this has to be answered in a very objective manner, not yes, no, thank you, blah. Probably quote an example. What was the pressure situation? Say it could be at their college or anywhere else, right? And how did they deal with it? So that will give a sense to the interviewer, confidence, think that yes, this person can do it. Why should we hire you? That would be the next one according to me. And rather than saying, if I am the student, I can do this, doesn't make sense. Why should I hire you should be answered as to what my capability is, what the organization has to offer, and let's see if there is a match between the two. If there is a match between the two, the candidate will get hired. Yeah. a clear reason. Most of the corporates will ask, why do you want to join our organization? They have to have a clear objective, right? Not to say because I did not get an offer anywhere else, I am interviewing with you. Some of these guys are pretty naive, right? I was the last one in the campus placement. I didn't get anywhere, so I'm talking to you. So there has to be a reason. And this stitches back to the points that we made earlier in this podcast, that the candidate has to do enough research about the company. So he will be able to answer why he wants to join. Last but not the least, this again ties up to the ambition. Where do you see yourself 5 years down the line? And you know what? The typical answer that I get is, I see myself as a project manager. I see myself as a program manager, as a director. I mean, guys, 5 years, how can you become a program manager? You're a campus fresher. In my mind, being realistic with that answer is the key. Right? We should not call out fancy designations. I want to be a director. It doesn't happen that way. I think these would be a few key questions that the student has to be prepared to answer and answer well.
Yeah, these are all very valid thoughts, and thank you for sharing with our audience, Shikha. Much appreciated.
Sure, Naveen.
Now, slightly a different question again. So, what are your tips for technical and management students to get hired? So, apart from the soft skills that we have focused so far, are there any other skills that they need to focus on?
Yeah, sure. See, we already spoke about communication, right? What kind of role it plays, written, spoken. Another aspect of communication which comes to my mind right now is also body language, right? So sitting in these interviews, right, how are you carrying yourself? Is your back straight? Is your back body language slouched? No matter how good you are, I don't think so you will make a good impression. So communication is a combination of written, spoken and body language. And it's very important, that the student has to focus on all the three, right? Ways to go about it is, probably working on group assignments, projects, stuff like that, which will give them that edge to talk and better. One of the things that I have practiced always, as a child, and I think it was inculcated by my parents, read English newspaper, watch English news, right? And it relates back to walk English all the time. So you only get better at it. So that would be one. Second aspect, I think, that any company looks at is a problem solver, right? And not a problem creator. Every company has its own ups and downs, shortcomings, problems, right? What kind of problem solving skills does the student have? Can he look at the problem, analyze, come up with a solution? That person would be a pick for me. Rather than saying, oh no, I don't know what to do, I will think, I will come back, and there are no right and wrong answers sometimes. But the fact that you're able to analyze, come up with some solution, it could work, it could not work. I think that is the ability corporates are looking at, according to me.
Yeah, let me add something here. When it comes to these questions on problem solving, I came across multiple people are coming to me and asking, how do you answer questions like, how many balls do you fit in a room? Or how many saloons are there in your locality and all, right?
Yeah.
So how do you deal about answering those questions?
So, the most classic one is you are riding on a bicycle, which is going down the road at this speed. How much time do you think it will take to reach the destination and stuff like that? On the fly, the person has to take 30 seconds or 60 seconds to think about it and come up with a logical answer.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot say you don't know. It depends. I have, to answer your question, there are people who actually said it depends on the size of the ball. Plays well with the interviewer, right? I am telling you that, it depends on the size of the ball. How many can you fit in a room? Kind of answers any corporate will appreciate. So my tip here would be, if there is confusion in the question, ask for a recalibration or ask your doubts. and then take those 2 minutes, think and logically answer to the best of your ability. Rather than saying it depends on the size of the room, it depends on the quality of the bicycle that you're riding. If it's a racing cycle, you do it first versus a non-racing. And so, yeah. Analytical bent of mind is very important. Logical thinking is very important. And Naveen, just to stitch back to what you're saying, the corporate looks at the approach, not the right answer.
So, and moreover, there is no right or wrong answer here. Everybody has a different perspective and they can fit in their version of the story. Thank you. So let's continue.
Another important thing that comes to my mind, and both for techies and non-techies, I think is leadership qualities, right? It's a mix of leadership, if you ask me, is a mix of many skills. It's not about, standing in a college auditorium and giving a speech. That is not leadership. Or, organizing a fashion show, making sure it runs very smooth, or a cultural fest. That is not leadership for me. It involves multiple skills, right from planning to organizing to strategic thinking. How do you manage that whole thing? Management skills. What entrepreneurship have you shown during that activity? All that is leadership. Crisis management, change management. How do you influence difficult people to get what you want? Say, I want a budget of 50 lakhs to organize a cultural fest. Now, 50 lakhs is too high. The college can only give, say, 20 lakhs. So how do you influence the person? Persuasion skills. So all this, according to me, forms leadership, right? Now, the student must be thinking, how do I, get exposure to all of these? Now, during their education journey, there are a lot of activities that they do. So each one of them should make sure they lead something. And if you lead a particular initiative, Naveen, trust me, all these skills that I just mentioned will play a crucial role, and you will learn them while conducting that activity, assignment activity. Yeah. So that would be one. The next one that comes to my mind is, how good a team player are you? Can you collaborate? Can you work in teams? Right? We love to hire people who can get along well with each other. Work in harmony. There are no conflicts are good, but excessive conflicts are not good. They'll always be fighting with each other, right? Again, while doing their college activities and stuff like that, or maybe some for young professionals in their first job, it's a good idea to learn these skills during your seminars or cultural events, or how do you collaborate with other people to reach a certain goal, right? So that is being a team player, according to me.
Great. Again, one more follow-up question within this segment. How do an introvert deal with this question? Because sometimes people may want to work as an individual and they get phenomenal results compared to working in a team environment. And we see that kind of culture, especially during that student stage, right? So how can students of that nature deal?
Sure, I think that's a brilliant one. Even I'm thinking how to answer. So if you ask me, a team comprises of more than one person. Let's say there are 5 or 6 on the team. I think the best way to go about doing this is each of these people on the team have their USPs, unique selling points, right? So for example, this introvert person in question right now could be very good at, say documenting, writing stuff down, doing all the back-end activities, which probably the other 5 people don't want to do. So utilizing each person's skill or high point to the best of their ability, I think should be the key, right? So let's say if I am driving a cultural fest or a project with 6 people, and there is somebody who's not outspoken, is not a good communicator, but then is very good at documenting, capturing stuff in say Excel files or PowerPoint presentations, that has to be capitalized is what I'm saying. It's not necessary for all of them to front end.
I think that's an amazing tip. Yeah, maybe we can get back on the conversation.
Correct. It's a mix of both front end and back end. For a successful team, you need both varieties. Correct. Last but one that comes to my mind is honesty. In fact, I was talking to somebody else last week who was taking some guidance from me on campus. I said, you know what? Listen, students bluff a lot, right? Just to get a job, I'm overselling myself, correct? So somebody who has very high credibility, personal credibility and integrity are valued by any corporate. And those are the qualities that are required in a workplace. We all look for candidates who are honest and have good, strong principles and moral values. So when you're filling your application, students, please fill the application with 100% accuracy and truth. If I have scored 59.9%, that is how it has to go in your application. You should not be rounding it off to 60%. Present data, present facts as real as they are. While you are in the interview, answer the questions with utmost truth and honesty. Don't bluff, don't oversell, right? Because interviewers are very smart to make that out, whether you're real or you're just bluffing around. So honesty is very important. Last, we covered that even before, openness to learning. That was one of the questions I had recommended that every student should ask in a campus interview or any interview for that matter, that what are the learning opportunities, right? It is, those are very important parameters for any corporate. Don't restrict your learning only to college. Enough and more information is available in the internet. There are multiple online forums, platforms available. Keep learning new things, right? That will help you in getting a job. Upgrade your skills from time to time. Stay relevant in the market, because, and especially with COVID, Naveen and Sudhakar, you don't know when we may become redundant, correct? Very important. Job market is tough.
Absolutely, Shikha. Absolutely, Shikha. Communication skills, analytical and problem-solving approach, leadership, collaboration, honesty, and openness for learning. I think you picked the top 6, which I would say are the pearls of wisdom for the candidates who are in the process of attending any interview.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sudhakar. Since, this is my subject, I could go on and on, but I thought, let's keep it short and crisp. The key messages should go to the students. There's enough and more learning that they can do.
Absolutely. I think the listeners will learn a lot and will get benefited immensely with this conversation. Shikha, thank you so much for showing interest in joining our Guiding Voice podcast. We really appreciate you taking time from your busy schedule. Your passion throughout our discussions has been very, vivid and inspiring. And we are sure that this will be first of many in our journey.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sudhakar and Naveen, for having me on your show. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I hope all these tips come out very handy for our listeners. And like you rightly said, Sudhakar, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So this was my first step with all of you.
Thank you, Shikha. I really appreciate all your insights. Indeed, it was a great conversation on on-campus and off-campus hiring topic. So thank you, Shikha. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Naveen. Thank you, Sudhakar. Have a great day and a great life.
Dear listeners, to know more about our speaker and the content, visit or follow us on social media, or feel free to email us, and we will be happy to share further details with you.
Alright, so it brings us to the trivia segment of this episode. And today's trivia is about generations. And for the first time in history, we have 4 generations working side by side. And when I say generations, it is about traditionalist, which is also called as silent generation, and baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials. So millennials are also called as Gen Y. So for those of you who don't know the definitions, traditionals or silent generation are the ones who are born between 1945 and before, And baby boomers are those who are born between 1946 to 1964. And Gen X are born between 1965 and 1976. Millennials, also called as Gen Y, are those who are born between 1977 and 1995. So every website has its own reference, but this is picked up from one of the most popular and trustworthy source. So each generation is very different in the way they grew up communicating. However, this is the first time in the history where all the four generations are working side by side. Also, I'm very curious to see how the workplace dynamics are going to change after the Gen Z. You may be curious who the Gen Z, right? They are the centennials who join the workforce. So let's see how the workplace dynamics are going to change. All right, so thank you everyone. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.